morning, everybody. This is the first episode of the Rosemary Live Show. Welcome to my brand spanking new podcast. I have been totally binging out lately on the international part of Netflix. So I thought it would be fun in this episode to talk about some of my faves, some of the ones maybe you can skip. But the cool thing is, everybody, now that we're partially in lockdown, partially not, you can't travel. Basically, Americans aren't welcome most places that these shows are set in. I thought it would be fun to tell you a little bit about each of the shows and see what you guys think. This show in general, Rosemary Live, is going to be rambly, fair warning. My brain skips around like a grasshopper on acid. Sometimes it's going to be about movies or shows or Netflix. Other times, maybe a new shiny object, technology that I've found. I download every new app. I get on every waiting list. So hopefully you're like me and you're sort of like a magpie going around picking up cool things and testing them out and seeing if they're nice. So come along on the ride with me. This is episode 1, so it may change in format. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But today we're having a pumpkin spice creamer pseudo latte from the Keurig machine. I don't know what you guys are drinking. Tell me in the comments. Please subscribe. It would make me feel so happy. All right, on to the Netflix. This is the real deal. So, two really cool things about watching these international Netflix shows. One is you will pick up the odd word of another language. And pro tip, almost wherever you are in the world, okay means okay. Also my one word of Icelandic that I now know, talk, means thank you. So you're welcome. All right, so let's start with the juice. The first show I wanted to talk about is called Dark. And it is indeed dark. It is a German show, and it revolves around this fictional town called Winden. And it's kind of like if Stephen King went to Germany and wrote Peyton Place, but with time travel. And it's pretty cool. You have to be prepared for darkness. You have to be okay with that. It's not like a fun, happy, woohoo show. It is, you super got to think and you have to focus. And I should have said up front, you have to watch these shows in their original language with English subtitles if you speak English, because the overdubbing is usually terrible and the translation is not good. I can tell from watching some of the Spanish ones that they're not exactly using the right phrasing sometimes with the translation, and you miss out on a lot of the nuance. So just beware. You really need to turn on the English captioning and watch it in the original language, and it gets you much closer to the original intent of the show. So Dark, total thumbs up on that. But just make sure that you're up for a ride and you're up for focusing, paying attention to the characters. It's very twisty and cool. Okay, next we are going to Italy and talk about a show called The Trial. And this one is really good, not quite as good as Dark. The interesting thing to me about this show is that it gives you a peek into the Italian court system, which I had no idea about. I've been to Italy a couple times now, and I love it. It's probably my favorite place to travel to. But the Italian court system is really interesting. The prosecutor also acts as the detective in the case. If you're Italian, please forgive me. You can correct me in the notes, but this is what I took away. They get to wear cool robes when they go present with like these really ornate tassels, and there's multiple judges. But so the trial revolves around this prosecutor who finds herself in the middle of the case. And that's all I can say without revealing anything, but it's really good. I would put that up there. Probably like, I don't know, a 7 or 8 out of 10. Definitely worth watching. And especially if you like Italy. The locations, although I think it was filmed in Rome, I'm not sure exactly where they put it. Like, they don't go to any of the big, they're not at the Colosseum or anything like that. They're actually in other parts of the city. So the setting itself is kind of like the extra character for that show. Okay, now we're going to go to Iceland. And this show, fair warning, is going to make you feel cold and super creeped out. It's called the Valhalla Murders. And for extra creepy factor, it's based on a true story or inspired by a true story about a boys' school in Iceland. Very twisty, again, very dark. It's one of those shows where it's very insular, and once you meet the characters, you're not sure who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, and where they all fit into this puzzle. Really interesting, again, to see cultural differences, how people relate to each other, the police force versus the civilians. The setting is really cool. I would definitely recommend this one, but, only if you're into the sort of true crime mystery sort of genre. Another one, now we're going to go to France. This one is good, but it's kind of cheesy good, like cheesy, twisty. It's called Marseille. And, most of you probably know that is a huge port city in France. I have never been to Marseille. I've been to France, but I've never been to Marseille. Have been to that kind of part of the country and really didn't know much about the city. The really interesting part about this one as an American watching was to see how elections work in France. It seems that this show revolves all around the mayor's office and city hall in the city of Marseille. So it seems like they keep having elections and elections and elections until they get the result they want. Somebody please explain this to me if you're from France. I would love to know. There is also a twisty, dark secret. There's a ruling family who's kind of in charge of City Hall, and then there's a young upstart trying to come in and take over. There's betrayal, there's love, there's murder. It's awesome. It's like a soap opera. And when you first start watching it, you're going to be like, oh, it's like bad soap opera. But the more you get into it, if you let yourself just soak in it, I think you'll enjoy it. It's really, it's a good show. I hope they're coming out with another season. All of these shows have been running for a while, and probably people in Europe are like, oh yes, I watched that 5 years ago. But hey, we're catching up. Anyway, Marseille is a really cool window into French municipal politics, which sounds boring, but all of the other stuff that's going on makes it really compelling. So I would definitely recommend that one. And P.S. Gerard Depardieu is in it, so I'll just throw that in there. And another one on my list, this is a Danish show that I'm still watching, so please don't spoiler anything for me. I think I'm about maybe in the second season. Is called Borgen, and I may be butchering that, but this is talking about Danish politics. A woman becomes prime minister somewhat unexpectedly, and it's kind of all the machinations and behind the scenes and inside the castle, if you would say, maybe, when someone becomes prime minister, and because she happens to be a woman, there's a whole extra side story going on. With, her husband is holding down the fort at home, and they have a really cool, interesting relationship. I like that part of it. Also, it's set in Copenhagen, which is really cool, and so the setting in this one is really nice too. It's kind of interesting the way the politics works in this case too, looking at it from an American perspective. The way you have to put together a coalition in order to keep your government in place. We're not used to that. So it's interesting to see that. She really has to, Brigitta is the woman who becomes prime minister. The only way she can hold on to power is to make sure she's got all these warring parties pulled together. And it's really hard. It's like herding cats to try and get them all on the same page and get them moving forward on the policies that her party wants. So to me, that part is really fascinating. Probably should have started this whole thing by saying I was a political science major, so sorry. some of these shows are kind of have similar themes. But I would definitely recommend this one. I'm going to keep watching it, and I think there may be 5 or 6 seasons of it, so I've got a ways to go. There's also intrigue and murder and backstabbing and all sorts of cool things that happen in this show. So all of these have these backstories going on. Okay, I don't know if that came in, but my computer just died, or went to sleep because I wasn't moving. We'll keep recording. So last but not least, I have to mention, I cannot do this episode without mentioning Money Heist. So my husband likes to sleep with the TV on, or go to sleep with the TV on. And so for months, he was kind of falling asleep, and I was listening to Money Heist, the English overdubbing version of the show, for a while, and it was very much like a bad Tokyo monster movie type of dubbing. So it was like, I shall take you, I am kidnapping you, and I shall take you into this room, and like that level of overdubbing. And I was cracking up. I thought it was a comedy. I thought it was supposed to be funny, but my husband kept watching it, and he's like, no, it's really good. Then he discovered that you could change it so that you're watching, that you're listening to it in the original language. This one is Spanish, set in Madrid and other locations. And then the Spanish started coming through, and I've taken just enough Spanish to get the gist of the conversation. So changed my whole perspective on the show. It sounded really interesting. And yes, it is. This is an international sensation. If you're an American, you may or may not have heard of it yet, but the rest of the world has been obsessed with this show, apparently. We're late to the party. Sorry, need a sip of coffee. This one, super, super strongly recommend, but fasten your seatbelts. It is not like any other show you've ever seen. You must watch it in the original Spanish language. There are good guys and bad guys on all sides. You have no idea what's going on. I almost can't even say anything about the show without spoilering things, except to say it revolves around a very, very intricately planned heist. And the relationships, the planning, the details of the heist itself, the way that the team is trying to solve the heist, and the way that the people doing the heist are trying to pull it off, all of this converges around some characters that are just so unique. I can't recommend this one strongly enough. I have to say that I am in the final season, so I'm coming in the home stretch on this one. I hope that it resolves in a satisfying way, but this show in and of itself is like a very satisfying Snickers bar. Love it, love it, love it. I'm definitely going to watch it to the conclusion. So that is, dude, my first episode is in the can. Woohoo! You know, probably as I go along, I'm going to do all the profesh stuff, like have intro music and things like that, and all those cool doodads. But, you know, I'm the kind of person that I come up with these plans and then it takes me forever to do it because I want it to be perfect. So I'm going to try and not be perfect. This first episode, I got to rip off the Band-Aid, get it out there. It is what it is. You're not getting music this time, maybe next time. And I'm going to try and do these maybe bi-weekly to start with. If I have cool ideas, I may do it more frequently. Please, please, please let me know. I'm going to be putting the video up on YouTube, Rosemary Live. Also going to put it out as a podcast. So if you like it, give me a thumbs up. If you want to talk about other stuff, or you want me to talk about an app or things like that. I also had an idea maybe of doing an episode of me trying to do Gary Vee's massive content deck. I happen to be a marketer, so that I thought could be a fun thing. Anyway, tell me what you think would be fun in the next episode. Have a great day, everybody.